whether that concept is familiar with all of you or not, but I'll tell you what I think you might want to know. But I very much encourage you to stop me or ask questions, whether it's about the words I'm using that might be unfamiliar to you, or whether you have questions about what I'm saying regarding family enrichment. So family enrichment is a small counseling agency with 10 counselors. 6 of us, I think, are part-time and 4 of us are full-time. We're on Queen Street between York and Westmoreland Street. We're what we call a non-for-profit. In other words, it's all the income we receive is simply to keep the operation going. No one is making money. It's not a private money-making operation. We do get a lot of our financial support from the government of New Brunswick. And so we've always pictured ourselves as an agency that is as available to the general public as possible. And we also always have had as one of our goals to keep the cost to clients who come to us as low as possible. Sometimes there are some services where we have no charge, but most of the time there is some level of fee that people have to pay. I can talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. So we have a mission, which we have carefully worded to try to incorporate all of what we think about or what we think about ourselves. So our mission is to enrich individuals, families, and communities through counseling, education, and advocacy. So the counseling is done primarily by clients, which could be, we refer to the people who come to us as our clients. If you went to the hospital, they would call you a patient, but we call you a client. So the counseling is provided by the individual counselors to individual clients, to couples, to family groups, that sort of thing. Education is probably taking place all the time in the work we do, but probably particularly in the psychoeducational groups that we offer, which, by the way, are free to the public. You don't have to pay anything. In terms of advocacy, when there's an opportunity for family enrichment to speak to government or speak to the public or speak to newspapers about issues that where groups of people in Fredericton or in New Brunswick are not being treated as well as they should be, then family enrichment will speak up to support those people who need to be treated in a more positive way. Sometimes when clients come to us and they are having difficulties with authority organizations, like could be the government, could be police, could be an employer, then sometimes we at Family Enrichment will contact the people who are not treating you well to kind of support you. That's not such a common thing, but that's part of our mission. Any comments or questions about our mission? I wish I could see you. It would be much easier. So the services that we have are, I'm just looking at the notes that I sent you. What I've said is individual, child, couples, and family counseling. So individuals, I guess, is straightforward. Individual people come to us sometimes always with some some subject, some topic that is really bothering them, that they're looking for someone's advice on or someone's suggestions about. Sometimes people are experiencing a lot of depression. Sometimes people are feeling a lot of stress that they can't figure out, or they feel they can't figure out the best way to deal with it. Sometimes people are experiencing a lot of difficulties in their relationships within their family, or maybe at work, or maybe somewhere else in the community. So people come with individual issues and concerns and questions. We have one counselor who pretty well full-time works with children under the age of 12 usually, but we'll also see children up to the age of 15. When someone comes to us with a child, or with 2 or 3 children from the same family, where the children appear to be having some significant emotional difficulties, the counselor will want to spend some time with the parents, who obviously are pretty critical to a child. A child might spend an hour a week or an hour in 2 weeks with a counselor, but most of the rest of the time the child is with their family. So it's important to us to talk to the family about the issues. The person who does that, which might be of interest to some of you, happens to be a young social worker who joined us a little more than a year ago, who's very specialized in dealing with children and dealing with families struggling with their children. But she happens to be a woman from Brazil, and so her first language is Portuguese. So she's our only Portuguese-speaking person, which is usually not what we're looking for, but it's very nice to have someone with that capability. If I move on to couples, 2 of us, myself and a woman named Tracy, who are interested or happy and experienced in meeting with couples who are having struggles with their relationship with each other. And we'll meet with couples and help them. I shouldn't say help them, we'll try to help them. We'll make suggestions about things people can do to improve a relationship that sometimes has become filled with conflict and struggles and unhappiness. In terms of family counseling, I'm pretty well the one person who sometimes meets with families, and I'm quite happy to do that, because sometimes to get some help with struggles and conflicts, a good way to do it is meet with everyone in the family, or maybe meet with certain members of the family, maybe the parents and the older children. Sometimes with family counseling, the family that comes to us that we meet with, that I meet with, would be parents and adult children. Sometimes it might be parents and teenage children, or sometimes it could also be parents with younger children, I would say over the age of 6 or 7. So that kind of is what I thought you might want to hear in terms of that aspect of our services. I've kind of pictured that there probably are 2 kinds of things we do when we meet with individuals, children, couples, or families. One is help the family find more satisfactory ways to deal with their struggles, coping strategies, we sometimes call it. How can I cope with this or with that? So we'll focus a lot on that. All of us at Family Enrichment focus on coping strategies. But another thing that seems to happen frequently with clients who come to us is clients who simply want a sounding board outside their normal circle, their normal family or social circle. What I mean is people sometimes come to us and say, I want your opinion because you must be objective. You're not part of my family. You're not part of my normal social circle. And you also have some education and experience with family and emotional matters. So I just want to see what you think about my situation. And so in situations like that, the counselor probably does a lot of listening and maybe not quite so much talking. Another sort of area of service that we have is what we call psychoeducational groups. Big fancy word. Psychoeducational. Well, we have three groups that we run frequently because of their, I guess you'd say, popularity, because people are frequently looking for this sort of thing. We have a group called Changing Ways, which is a program for men. We have a group called Changing Tides, which is a program for women. And we have a group called Craving Change, which is a group for people struggling with eating difficulties. Typically, people who are overweight and want some help or support to try to do something to get their weight back into the normal range. I'll talk about each of these programs a little bit, but let me just say again, these groups are supported by government grants to family enrichment, so people who join these groups don't have to pay. That's a nice part. I wish we could offer all our services that way, but we can't. I'll talk about Changing Ways first. A long time ago, we used to call it anger management for men. It's a program, it's 10 weeks, 2 hours a week. Usually 8 to 10 men are in the group, and it focuses on IPV. So you may not be familiar with the term IPV. People in my work refer to it all the time. IPV means intimate partner violence, or used to be called domestic violence. In other words, men who believe, or maybe whose wives believe, they are over controlling or over aggressive or abusive or something like that toward their wives. I've been involved with that particular group for many years. I love running the group because, for the most part, I feel the men who are in the group are really interested in improving their relationships with their wives or their partners, and they typically really like the suggestions and the ideas that we present, and they tend to become quite open to people like myself and anyone else running the group, confronting them with behaviors that to their partners or children seem abusive and wrong. So I think that's a great program. And if you have questions about that, now or after I've told you everything I have on my sheet here to tell you, please tell me what your comments or questions might be. Changing Tides is a program. It's 8 weeks of duration, 8 weekly meetings of, I think they're probably 2 hours each, run by a woman named Sarah Vixie Brenton. Women who have experienced abusive or controlling or very uncomfortable relationships with their husbands come to that program. And as far as I can tell, they love it. I've talked to women who've gone to the program and they can't seem to tell me enough about how helpful it was to them. So in that program, it's an opportunity to realize you're not the only person struggling with issues. What was I going to say? So it's I think women attending that group feel a lot of support from other women, which may be the first time they're with other people who are experiencing similar situations. A big issue in that a big topic of conversation and discussion in that program is gender equality. And as all of us around the globe, as far as I can tell, know, gender inequality is a common problem. And a lot of progress has been made with it, but it's slow. So even though women are not as unequal to men as they probably were 25 or 50 years ago, there's still a long ways to go. I certainly know from my own experience with clients at Family Enrichment, and also from talking to Sarah, who runs the Changing Tides program, that it seems like more and more women are deciding to try to ensure they have gender equality in their primary relationships and don't feel like they're some kind of second-class citizen in their own family. So that's Changing Tides. It's popular. I say popular, what I mean is Sarah will take 8 people into the program, and usually there's a waiting list. Then our third group that I was going to mention is Craving Change, which is run by Tracy Holding, and that's simply support group with ideas and suggestions and just mutual support for people struggling with weight problems. Any questions so far, or any comments so far? I can talk a little bit longer, but since I can't see you, I can't get any reading. I see someone putting their thumb up. Who is that? Oh, well, I can't hear you.
Hi, I'm Javier. Hi.
Oh,
No,
there.
everything's clear. Just because you ask, you won't share our videos, so just you're welcome.
Say that again. Say that again.
You like to see our face, so I share my video. That's it.
Oh, yes, right. I see you. You're very small. You're on my screen. You're about that high on my screen. But
it's good. It's good.
I know for sure there's one live person there, even though I guess
I like to convert you.
There are 18 others. So, oh, there's another person. Jing, hello.
All right.
Yeah. Oh my God, look at all the people showing up. Well, that's great. I'd love to see you. When I came to MCAF 6 or 8 months ago, or maybe a year ago, I don't remember now, it was with Jackie Buckley, and she and I did some role plays, and we kind of got people from MCAF to volunteer to be amateur actors, and that was kind of fun. I'm not going to try to do that on the Zoom system. So, has anybody got anything they want to say right now, or I can keep going unless somebody has something that they really want to say or ask? Well, okay, I'll keep going to a topic that I hate. Sorry I have to bring this up, but it's the cost, the fees. Like I said earlier, I wish it was free for everyone. Government services are free. If someone has some personal, emotional, or relationship issues and goes to the mental health clinic, you don't have to pay. And I wish we were the same, but we're not. Just about mental health clinic, you may be aware that often the waiting lists, the waiting time at mental health clinic is so long, it kind of almost seemed maybe futile to bother going. Since COVID, we have a waiting list also, which is not usual for us. In the past, we've always been able to see people within 2 or 3 weeks. Right now, it looks like it's going to be 3 or more months before we can see people. If you want our services, you should come and get your name in there, and maybe what you're looking for and the counselor that would be made available to you may be available sooner than than in some other sets of circumstances. But generally speaking, I'm sorry to say we have a waiting list. But in terms of the fees, so it works like this. Individual counseling is $100 for a session. The session is an hour. If it's a child, it's $130. If it's a couple, it's $125. If it's a family, it's $150. If it's a psychologist, it's $145. Well, that's kind of, anyway, all between $100 and $145. When someone comes to us whose financial situation doesn't really enable them to pay that kind of a fee, we'll ask details. We have a woman at Family Enrichment, Paula Poirier. She'll go through a series of questions with you to kind of determine whether your income is such that we can offer you a subsidized rate, which could be as low as, I think it can go down as low as $35 a session. As I mentioned earlier, the groups, there's no charge for the groups. The Department of Social Development sometimes will pay for people to come to us. People who are employed typically have an EAP. EAP means Employee Assistance Program, which whereby employers will pay for employees to get counseling from various types of counseling agencies. And sometimes they'll pay 100% for a certain number of sessions, 4 or 6, or often with those programs, if someone really needs quite a number of sessions, when the limit has been reached, if your employer says we'll pay for 6 sessions, sometimes, well, frequently actually, they'll give you more sessions, 3 more or 6 more. So if you're employed and you want services like ours, you should talk to your human resources people and find out what kind of an employee assistance program your company has. I'll just say one more thing about fees, because I'm just looking at my sheet here and thinking about a psychologist. We have one psychologist, Tom McAvity. Psychologists normally are paid quite a bit higher rate than social workers and licensed counselors. And a lot of employers who have an employee assistance program won't pay for a psychologist because normally it's quite a bit more expensive. A psychologist is more specialized, has a more specialized kind of training than some of the rest of us. Yeah, so just back to social development. I mean, social development has a wide range of programs, from social assistance, that's support for monthly income of families. They have a whole wide range of child services, and child protection services are probably the part of social development most likely to pay for counseling services at Family Enrichment. We see a lot of people who come to us from child protection. That seems like it's a very positive thing. Yeah, so that's fees. I talked to you, let me see, I've gone on, look at my notes here. Psychosocial groups. All right, I thought you might want to know this. What is a counselor? Well, at Family Enrichment, we have counselors with 2 types of education. We have social workers We have 4 social workers at Family Enrichment who are registered, what's it called? RSW, registered social workers with the province of New Brunswick. And all 4 of us have a Master of Social Work degree. So that's a 5 or sometimes 6-year university program where we learned everything we could about helping people with emotional and interpersonal struggles. We have 4 people with that qualification. We have 5 people who are licensed, have what's called an LCT. That stands for Licensed Counselor and Therapist. And that training in some ways is quite similar to social work training, probably more focused on individual counseling as opposed to the social work training, which is sometimes broader, focusing somewhat on couples, families, communities, that sort of thing. And as I said, we have 1 psychologist. I could just mention this. The general public frequently is confused about what's the difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist. Well, a psychiatrist is a medical doctor who has extensive training in emotional and interpersonal issues, in addition to his normal medical training. And a psychiatrist can prescribe medication. So as you're probably aware, frequently people who are having emotional struggles will get some sort of medication either from their family doctor, or if it's more critical, then from a psychiatrist. So for depression and things like that. A psychologist is not a medical doctor and is not involved in any way in obtaining or providing medication. But a psychologist is highly trained in understanding how a person's thinking, their brain and their emotions work and interact with each other. And often psychologists are also the people used to do assessments of, we'll say, children who were having extreme difficulties at school, or adults who were struggling with managing their normal lives in a more specialized way. Just that people often, well, I would say often, get confused about the difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist. And the biggest difference is a psychiatrist is a medical doctor who is qualified to prescribe medication, and a psychologist is not. Any questions so far about me trying to explain the background, the training of us at Family Enrichment? Well, I'm looking for questions, but I'll give you a few moments to speak up with questions or comments if you would like to. If you don't, I would like to ask you some questions, which I hope some people will be brave enough to answer or to comment on. So from all that I've said so far, what kind of conclusions, or what kind of questions, pardon me, have you been having?
And just a quick reminder for all the participants, your microphones are muted right now, so you're welcome to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask the question. And once you're done with the question, you can mute the microphone back. So go ahead, feel free.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Javier. Just I want to correct myself. What I understand, just the one of full free of payment is the difficulty with overweight. Otherwise, all we should pay for.
So I think what Abir is asking, what are, if you could reiterate again, what are the free programs or services that are offered?
Just the overweight one, I understand it's full free. So what about other program? All we should pay for it?
No, you don't have to pay for those. Those are group programs. So the weight one, I don't know if there's a limit to the number of people or not. I'm guessing she probably would want somewhere between 6 and 10 people to do the program. You don't have to pay. The Changing Tides, the program for women, she will accept up to 8 people in the program, and it's 6 or 8 weekly meetings, and it's to support and give information to women who have been abused by their husbands or are afraid they could be abused by their husbands or feel they are unable to speak up for themselves in their marriage relationship. Now, that might not sound very clear to you, but if you have more specific questions for me, I'll try to answer.
Thank you. It's quite clear. Thank you.
So just to clarify again and confirm that there are different educational groups and programs that are offered and they are free, but the direct service to a client when it's a one-on-one, that's where the clients would pay a fee.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, wonderful.
So the other group is what we call Changing Ways, really changing ways for men. And it's for men who have come to realize that their wives are very uncomfortable or somewhat uncomfortable with how things go between the two of them, where the wife may feel he doesn't pay attention to her opinions, where she may feel afraid to say what she thinks, that she is afraid that he will become angry. In some cases, she may be afraid that he would physically hurt her. In other cases, she may be afraid or may have experienced that he hurts her emotionally by telling her she's stupid, that she can't think very well, that sort of thing. And the men who come to that program have come to realize to some extent that their wives feel that way and they want to make some changes. They want some help with it. You know, it's kind of amusing in a way, but many times when I have begun running that program, I've said to the men, well, you're all here because you want help managing your anger, because you feel that people are afraid that you'll get angry and say hurtful things or maybe do something hurtful. Am I right? And they'll all say, yes, that's right. And I'll say, so how many of you are here because the court or the police have required you to come? Typically, nobody puts their hand up. And I'll say, how many of you are here because your boss at work told you you better get some help with how you handle your anger? Typically, maybe one, but usually nobody puts their hand up. And I said, well, then you're all here voluntarily. And they all nod their heads and say yes. And I said, how many of you are here because your wife said, if you don't go get some help, I'm leaving? And they all put their hands up. Nobody's laughing. Someone's smiling. When I hear that, what my conclusion is that every man who says, I'm there because my wife has forced me to and I'm upset about it, I'm saying to myself, there's a woman who I've never met who has taken charge of her life and is no longer prepared to be in a relationship where she continually feels put down and uncomfortable. What are your comments? Another way of looking at this is we have a saying that when you're around a person who's always on the verge of exploding in anger or frustration or abusive language, you might say, I feel like I'm walking on eggshells. And what we mean by that is I'm nervous all the time that anything I might say or do is going to result in a big explosion of emotions that's uncomfortable or frightening. So many times I hear women say, I feel like I'm walking on eggshells. Or I'll say to men, does your wife sometimes say she feels she's walking on eggshells? If a wife feels she's walking on eggshells most of the time around her husband, then this program would be helpful for her husband and her. And maybe the Changing Tides one would also be helpful to her. We're Family Enrichment, we're very interested and supportive of gender equality. And it's a big issue in pretty well all cultures. And men need to make some changes to help gender equality be achieved. And if women speak up and demand gender equality, that will also help our cultures, our societies move forward on this. So I must have said something that makes you think. So I'd be very happy if anyone wants to comment on what I've said. I have other questions that I don't know if you can answer. If I could see all of you, I'd ask for a show of hands. I believe that what we do at Family Enrichment and counseling generally is very much influenced by the culture we're in. And at Family Enrichment, and certainly myself, and I know the others also, are anxious to be available to newcomers to Canada who are from different cultures, obviously. We're very anxious to offer a service, a kind of service that would be useful to you and to offer it in a way that's useful to you. But it's continually a question on our own minds as to what's the best way to do that, because we can't possibly understand all the cultural backgrounds that everyone comes from. So we're always interested to hear from people who are new to this country what they think would be useful and helpful. We're interested in hearing that from people who have lived in Canada for 100 years or 200 years or 300 years. We're interested in hearing from everyone because we want to make our services useful. But I think for newcomers to Canada, it must be even a bigger issue. Can you give me any feedback about that? Jing, you're nodding your head. Do you have something to say? If anyone has something to say, we can have some discussion. But if not, it's fine. But just let me say that we're at Family Enrichment, we're very committed to being as appropriate and, as we'll say, sensitive to your thoughts and your ideas and your needs, we'll say, as we possibly can be. Well, on another subject, maybe this is easier. Did everyone get these slides? Like the first one would have looked like this. Did everyone see that in class yesterday? No?
No.
Oh, well,
No.
that's too bad, because everyone knows who D is, right? Doa Hassan, I think. So we sent them to her. She said, can you send something so we can take it to class, and in class people can look at it, and if there are words that are unfamiliar or whatever, they can prepare that way, but that didn't seem to happen. Surely I've used words or phrases today that are unfamiliar to some people. You can ask me to try to explain when I've used words or terms that are unfamiliar to you. If I ever was to meet with you in person as a group, I'm sure we'd be able to say things and ask questions and have some discussion. The whole business of counseling and talking about people's emotional well-being, talking about people's emotions generally, and what people do with their emotions. I mean, that's a great subject all the time. What do people do? What do people do with anger? Do they swear? Do they kick things? Do they threaten? Do they punch holes in walls? Of course, all of that does happen. Do people use the silent treatment? Ever heard of that?
Yes, stay alone.
The silent treatment is when you refuse to talk for an hour or 2 hours or a day or a week. That's a way to get back at someone you're angry at. It's
No,
a great.
don't worry, not more than 1 hour. Don't worry, I can't stay quiet more than 1 hour.
Well, then that means you're not so worried about breaking the silence. Many people are afraid to break the silence about how they feel. And those are the people who really should be coming to us to get some help. And particularly the two groups that I mentioned. If there's a person who is afraid to say what she thinks, then maybe the changing ways for men would be a good thing for her husband. I mean, I say to men, because I'm the one that deals with, well, myself, it's usually myself and a woman together, we'll deal with the men, but I'll say to the men, is your wife uncomfortable around you? Is she afraid of your reaction? And the men that come to me will say, yeah, she says she is. I don't think she needs to be, but she says she is. And I said, well, she's probably not lying. If she says she's afraid, I don't think she's lying to you. So how do you feel about that? Are you happy to be living with a woman who's afraid of you? And of course they'll say, well, no, I don't like that. And I said, good, you're in the right spot. Let's talk about that. So those are the things, but if we had, if we were all together talking, I'm sure we could have a useful conversation about that. Maybe when I'm gone from today's session, maybe some of you will talk to each other about it. I mean, it's something that affects everybody. I mean, people joke about it, but you know, I'd like to see people go a little beyond just joking. I mean, people joke about their husband always has to get his own way, or, you know, I better not do this or say that because he'll be upset. People talk about that in a kind of a joking way, but sometimes it's no joke. When I was young, I went to a foreign country. When I was young, I went to a foreign country and learned what for me was a foreign language. I was 19 years old. I went to Germany, lived for a year, and I was so anxious to learn German language. And so it was a difficult but very interesting experience. So when I know of people who've come to Canada from somewhere where English is not the first language, I'm always thinking about what that was like and what it is like. And I know it can be very stressful and it's very hard work. And sometimes it's pretty frustrating. So there's no doubt in my mind that anyone who comes to Canada who didn't know good English before they came has got a big struggle, a big issue. My phone keeps ringing and I can't answer. Just a moment. Hello? I can't talk right now. Can I call you back? Okay, bye. Yeah. So you have my, I don't want to say sympathy. What could I say? You have my support. You have my best wishes for being in a place where you're learning a foreign language and you never know what's going to happen, what you're going to say that doesn't come out right, or what someone else is going to say and you don't know what it means, but you don't want to ask. Or maybe you've asked someone to explain a different word three or four times, and then you don't want to ask again because you think, well, I'm only annoying them. Am I right? Is that what goes on? Yeah. Well, keep doing it. It'll be good. Well, I think I'm done. Unless anyone has anything else they'd like to say or anything else they'd like to ask. If you see me somewhere, say hello to me and just say you were, if you want to. I'd be happy to meet you, and just say you saw me on Zoom. Hope you can recognize me.
I have a quick poll to launch, so if participants don't mind taking a second to fill out these questions, and it's just going to be on the screen for you. And while you're filling out the poll, you're still welcome to ask any questions for Sandy.
Yeah, I'll be very interested to find out from Katya how the session went. It's kind of awkward doing it, you know, online, but I'll be very interested in what kind of answers you get. But please be honest. If everybody says everything was perfect, I'll think someone's lying.
Well, so far we had 2 participants in the poll, 3, and numbers are rising. So we're gonna let it hang out for another 15 to 20 seconds or so.
Yeah.
Sandy, do you find that a lot of newcomer families come for assistance at the center, at the agency? Sorry.
I wouldn't say a lot, but yeah, all of us have had people come to us who are newcomers in the country, and we've tried to offer things, and I think sometimes it's been useful, and sometimes I think it's been hard for us to maybe offer what someone was looking for. Maybe today's session helps people get a clearer idea of what we can offer and what we can't. I expect the idea that a lot of what we do, you have to pay for, keeps people away. And I think that's very unfortunate, but anyway, I can't change it, so.
But I think the part where you offer free educational programs through support groups, it's a very important component, because that's where people can identify and can help them understand what is it that they might need here in a new country, in a new place of living, with a new language, with a new mentality.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, for example, in the case of men, if a man calls us, and I just realized I didn't talk about our phone number. If a man phones us and says he's interested, then he'll have a meeting with me or with Jackie Buckley, the woman who does it with me, with no charge. So he'll come in for half an hour and we'll talk to him about the program and try to work out with him whether it's a program that he really wants to do or it's really suitable for him. So, you know, that's but our website is not up for some reason. It's supposed to get up soon, but it's not. But there's information you can get on Facebook and on Instagram, or you can phone us, 458-8211. Yeah, so those are other ways to connect with us.
458-8211.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay. The phone number is in the chat box, just in case someone wants to write it down. And so a person can call and say, I'm interested to see if you have some programs for my situation. Then you would invite that person for another opportunity to chat with a counselor and see what program might match them best.
Well, I better be careful that I don't offer more than we can deliver.
Right.
If someone phones and says, if a man phones and says, I think I might be interested in the Changing Ways for Men, then yes, we would talk to him. If a woman phones and says, I might be interested in the women's group, then Sarah will talk to that person for sure. So yeah.
And if somebody doesn't speak English that well or can't speak English at all, do they have other options for them?
Yeah, people from newcomers who come to us, I would say, I don't know, maybe half or maybe a third of the people who've come to us have come with an interpreter from MCAF. Yes.
Okay, there we go. That's the option.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. So we're used to that. It's you know, it changes things somewhat, obviously, but yeah, no, you can come with an interpreter, translator.
That's right. We had so far 11 people participate in the poll, which was very helpful. Thank you so much, guys. If you don't have any questions, any further questions for Sandy or myself, I think we can call it a day for the session. And Sandy, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Well, thank you for the opportunity of talking about what we do. And I hope I said something that was useful to you. And like I said, we're happy to hear from you if you think we might have something to offer you.
Just as you were curious, Sandy, here are the results that you can take a look at real quick before we end the session.
Can I ask, or the time ran out?
Oh, you go ahead. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm Abir again. As I mentioned, I can't be quiet more than half an hour. So I'm wondering if you're looking for all people with difficulty, Canadian or newcomer, are you hiring the people can understand the different culture, or you have standard law for everyone?
Are we, say that again, are we hiring what?
Yeah, you're hiring people with different culture because, as you mentioned, you're looking for difficulty for different culture. So I think it will be good if if you're hiring people with can understand the different culture, or are you
Well, yeah,
understand?
you're right. Of course, there are many different cultures, so I don't know who we would hire who would be good
No,
at
I
many
don't look
cultures.
for job. I don't look for job, but with if I came with my difficulty, but I have my special culture or religion, and to be honest, I need special help. You understand me? So, or there's standard law for everyone. You understand what I mean?
No, not yet. Say it again.
Oh, come on. um, because you're looking for a newcomer with difficulty for language and the different culture and different religion. Are you worried about those details, or you have like a standard law or tips for everyone?
What's the question?
If
Can
someone,
one help me? You can't understand.
I'm still
So,
not sure I've
so
understood. If
I know my English so high. I know.
so, if you come to us from a different culture and a
No,
different religion
yeah,
and so
yeah.
on,
I think if you're hiring some people, they can understand the different people, like they come from
well,
all around the world. So it will be more worth it. Maybe I have small problem, but if you can understand my culture, it will be major for you. You
yeah,
understand what I mean? Yeah,
that's right.
yeah.
Um, well, family enrichment is required to hire people who are registered to do counseling in New Brunswick and Canada. So that's where, when I mentioned earlier, social workers are registered social work, registered with the Association of Social Workers in New Brunswick, and the licensed counselors and therapists are also registered with the Canada-wide association. So in order for us to legally provide counseling, we need people who've met those qualifications. But MCAF has, I think, has people designated as cultural, what's it called?
Brokers, cultural brokers.
Yes, that's right. Who I think can be very helpful. And often, I mean, the interpreters who've come, are kind of cultural interpreters also, typically, because if you speak Arabic and you don't speak English and you come to us with an Arabic interpreter who speaks English, well, that person already, can do some cultural interpretation, which can be very helpful to us. And the more experience people from MCAF or from anywhere else have as cultural interpreters, not just language interpreters, the better. For us to hire counselors from other cultures, so the first obstacle, like I said, is a qualification to do counseling in New Brunswick. And the other is how many different cultures would we be involved with? So I don't know. It's a nice idea, but I don't know how practical it is. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any type of cultural competency trainings that are provided maybe to the counselors of the agency?
Well, yes, the MCAF has done that. We've
Right.
come, a couple of us, myself included. Bobby Ross went. I'm not sure who else. Some of us have gone to cultural competency workshops put on by MCAF, and yeah, we have.
Exactly. So that's good. That fills in the gap.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, that's all time we have so far. If you have any further questions for Sandy, maybe address them to Doa and she will forward them to Sandy. And if you want to call the Family Enrichment Services directly, you have the number in the chat box, 458-8211. Yeah.
Sure. If Doa has questions and you direct them to, if you direct them to me, since I'm the person that's been in contact with you today, then myself or someone at Family Enrichment will do our best to respond to the questions. That'd be great, actually. It'd be very interesting. It'd be fun.
Wonderful.
All right. Well, thank you for the opportunity to talk about family enrichment. And like I said, if you see me, if I go to MCAF, which I have a few times before, don't hesitate to come and say hello. Or if you see me downtown somewhere, same thing.
Thank you so much, Sandy. That was a great session and very informative. Thank you guys
Okay.
for joining us.
Thank you.
19
Thank you.
participants. It was a great session.
Thank you.
Okay. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you very
Bye.
much. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.